FNAF Security Breach is easily one of the most controversial, convoluted, and confusing games in the FNAF series. Despite its gameplay telling the story of a boy named Gregory who is trapped in the mega Pizzaplex, it's what's going on behind the scenes that has most people confused. Whether it be the identity of Vanny, Burntrap's bizarre appearance, or the spirit-possessing Glamrock Freddy, there's more to this game than meets the eye, and unfortunately, not much of it can be gleaned from the main game. While I do firmly believe Security Breach is not the weakest entry in the FNAF series, it definitely upsets the timeline in ways we've scarcely felt before. I think maybe Dream Theory was worse in terms of how it upset people, but there was almost nothing more controversial than just most of this game. So I'm going to try and solve some of the tougher mysteries of the game, based on what I know and have discovered. The first mystery I think I've solved is what Burntrap actually is, and why it's concerning for the future of the series. So one of the big problems that I've been scratching my head about is how Glitchtrap as an entity can exist inside Vanny, but Burntrap seems to be Afton with all his faculties back. So I went looking through different Easter eggs to try and find an answer, and I found one. We know that Patient 46, the unknown manipulator, tried to recreate Glitchtrap. One of the therapists describes a glitch having entered their system, and 46 creating a program that mimicked it once the glitch had shifted sources and left, probably through Vanny, but it wouldn't be identifiable as a glitch.
Apparently, the glitch extended beyond the robots. It went system-wide. It began infecting all the machines, and when the techs traced the glitch back to its origin, it led them to you. I'm not going to pretend to understand everything I'm reading here, but what I get is that the system-wide glitch was like a cascade that was broadcasting a very dangerous message. While the techs were trying to reprogram the system to remove the glitch, the source of the glitch shifted. You'll have to excuse me, I'm not all that familiar with computer programming, so I might get this wrong, but what I understand is that the glitch stopped being a glitch and turned into an intentional set of subroutines that were aimed at creating the same thing the glitch created. Those subroutines seem to have come from you.
The wording is a bit different. The therapist almost describes the glitch as being what created Glitchtrap, not that the glitch is Glitchtrap. But the important thing to understand is that when Glitchtrap left, the effects were still in the system, and 46 was turning them into an intentional set of subroutines. It's hard to imagine that this wouldn't go anywhere, but it actually explains something important. If 46 is the one recreating Glitchtrap, then there's a solid chance that Vanny and Vanessa don't even know about Burntrap. Glamrock Freddy describes being brought down to the underground location once before, but this doesn't make much sense because he can't see Vanny. How would he be brought down there? Notice as well by now, Glamrock Freddy never refers to Vanny as Vanny or Officer Vanessa. He only ever refers to the person who brought him down there as she. We all just assume that this she had to be Vanny, since who else could it be? But it seems more likely that Glamrock Freddy doesn't know this person's name. However, it's worth noting that if you go through to the Afton boss fight without ever finding Vanny's hideout in Fazbear, Freddy wouldn't know her name in the first place. But on the flip side, if you do this and he does know Vanny's name, then why would he be so vague about who brought him down here? And again, we have to remember that he can't see Vanny, and he knows Vanessa. I think all in all, this points to this supposed she being our Patient 46. So this Patient 46 is almost definitely the one recreating Glitchtrap and Burntrap, and I think the implications are startling. What she did to Burntrap was put Glitchtrap inside of him, or at least a recreation of him. Although we don't know the specifics of it, I think it might be more accurate to call Burntrap a recreation of Afton rather than a resurrection of Afton. William Afton's soul, for all intents and purposes, does seem to live on through Vanny, since she was the one affected by the VR game. So unless Afton split his soul like a Horcrux, I think Burntrap is probably more akin to a zombie than anything else. But then what about the corpse? What about the suit? Well, the Glamrock Bonnie theory is one I never really doubted. That's the theory that Glamrock Bonnie, after being taken out by Monty, was scrapped and had its parts recovered to remake Springtrap. As for the corpse, one thing I never see people mention now is Jeremy. Jeremy was the beta tester from Help Wanted, who, for an unknown reason, was commanded by Glitchtrap to cut off his own face with a paper guillotine. Why would Glitchtrap do this instead of making Jeremy a vessel? Because that was never his goal. He needed to make sure he could control Jeremy, yes, but the first part of his revival would be having a new body to move into. He had Jeremy cut off his face so that he could have a body to move on in. So 46 puts Jeremy's corpse into Burntrap and uploads the Glitchtrap virus into it. Through this, we have our very own William Afton, while his spirit is still dancing the Mamba in Vanessa's skull. But then you wonder, what is the point of this? If the goal was to give Afton a new body, then why would Glitchtrap still be with Vanny? This, I still don't really know. I can make guesses, but this is where the evidence kind of stops. Vanny never interacts with Burntrap throughout the entire game, despite Afton being a major antagonist through her and through Burntrap. And I think the reason for that is either that she doesn't know he's down there, or it's not her job to go down there. But 46 definitely knows, and part of the reason I think that Vanny doesn't is because 46 is described as manipulating Vanessa through these encrypted messages. The therapist thinks Vanessa is lying to her, but she doesn't really know anything about those messages because they weren't meant for her. They were meant for Vanny. I think this sort of zombie Afton theory also explains why Scraptrap can talk, but Burntrap cannot. Burntrap can laugh, yes, but he never speaks, even though getting Scraptrap to shut up was the tricky part with him. In fact, there's a really good chance that this isn't Afton's corpse if we look at who has voiced Afton in the past, and Afton now. Although PJ Haywood voiced Springtrap and Scraptrap before, Matthew Curtis is playing Burntrap now. And I think this is because it's not Afton's voice we're hearing, it's Jeremy's being puppeted by Afton. That's why it sounds deep and distorted at times. However, it's worth noting that Curtis did voice Afton in the trailer for the game, so I might be wrong, but this dialogue ended up being scrapped for the final release. It's possible that they scrapped this dialogue because it didn't make sense for Burntrap to talk. I think the scariest implication is that if 46 was able to do this once, what's stopping her from doing it again? I'm going to bring up the books now very briefly, so if you hate literature and reading, cover your ears. I promise the big bad Fazbear Fright's tales from the Pizzaplex will go away soon. Anyway, across the newest installments in the Fazbear Fright series, we're seeing an ongoing story surrounding a damaged rabbit endoskeleton who is stuck and sealed away in the underground pizzeria. Now, while many people assume that this endo will eventually be Burntrap, I have another theory. In Security Breach's underground pizzeria, we find Burntrap, yes, but what else do we find? A number of endoskeletons, the same as the ones in the Pizzaplex. But then why are they down here? Is it possible that the endoskeleton that's been terrorizing teens in the newest Fazbear Frights books is one of these endos? We can't confirm any of these are rabbit endos since those would seem to possess long ears, but we never actually see an endo with rabbit ears, like, ever in the entire franchise. It's implied essentially that the ears are a separate component from the main endo and head cover. Note how Bonnie's ears stay attached to the head when he takes his face off in FNAF 1's trailer. Regardless if it's true that that's why the endos are down there, then I think we could potentially be looking at an army of Burntraps in the making. Why so many disappearances at the Pizzaplex? Specifically adults, and aside from the therapists, most seeming to be male? I think they're being used to create more of Afton, so expect Burntrap to come back in Security Breach Ruin, even if it's not exactly the same Burntrap as we last saw him. So to sum up any new points I'm trying to make here, Vanny probably doesn't know about Burntrap, or she's not directly involved with him. Patient 46 is probably the one who recreated Afton, not Vanny, and there's potential for 46 to make more of Afton whenever she pleases. However, these new Burntraps are only zombies of Afton, and don't have his spirit attached. All of this, and we're still no closer to finding out just who 46 even is. While I'm relying on it being a new character, I don't imagine we'll be finding out until later. But are there any other mysteries that can be solved with what we have right now? I think so. What's the deal with the Princess Quest arcade cabinets? These arcade cabinets are hidden all over the Mega Pizzaplex and are necessary to beat in order to reach the best ending of the game. In order to figure out what these arcade cabinets are, we first need to know what they do. In each of the games you play as a princess whose sprite is made up of varying shades of yellow. She has blonde hair, yellow skin, and a bright yellow dress. In the first game, you need to avoid enemies while lighting fires to allow you to move on. In the second, you are given a sword and a task to open a large door. The third game is the most bizarre, and has you walk among various scenery seen in previous games to seal Glitch Trap away. These games have to be played in the order presented. The first game can be found in the beauty parlor next to Roxy Raceway in the back storage room. The second is found in the long hall from the DJ Music Man chase, and can be interacted with after the chase is over. The third is kept in Vanny's hideout and can only be reached while confronting Vanny in one of the game's endings. Upon completing all three of these games, we begin an ending cutscene where Princess Quest 3 shuts down, and Vanny is gone, leaving only her mask on the floor. Vanessa greets Gregory at the entrance of the Pizzaplex, and the two go out to that ending hill with Freddy's head. The game is over. Everyone survives. Of course, the most important part of this ending is Vanny disappearing. And not just disappearing, but throwing her mask down. This leads me to further believe that this character is Vanessa, although it's not explicitly shown in this instance. Whoever Vanny is though, Glitch Trap is gone. Her mind has returned to normal. I know MatPat has recently popularized the idea that Vanny and Vanessa are two distinct characters, and I'll humor it in this instance. Perhaps Vanessa's twin sister ran away out of guilt, deciding not to be Vanny anymore, as ridiculous as that is. But what is truly going on here? What exactly are these arcade cabinets that they have the power to erase Glitch Trap and heal Vanny? Well, it oddly enough goes all the way back to FNAF 3. In this game, we see minigames based on several different characters from the series, with the objective being to break the game and give each kid a piece of cake, inviting them all to join the happiest day. Without completing these minigames, the souls cannot move on, and you get the bad ending of the game. Doing these correctly, however, their spirits are able to be free, and instead of the bad ending, you get the end. Now, aside from this kind of confirming that this is the true ending to FNAF 3, or at least it was at the time, I think we're seeing something similar to these Princess Quest games. There's clearly a spirit or something similar trapped inside, and we're helping it to move from game to game to complete its quest. But then who is it? Well, we need to first look at Help Wanted. Even though I've been referring to Princess Quest and Security Breach, these minigames actually first appeared in the mobile port of Help Wanted. Since players wouldn't exactly be able to move around in a 3D environment to find hidden tapes, the compromise was made that they'd have to complete these levels. At the time, people had actually connected the character to Golden Freddy, who was one of the only characters to not appear in FNAF Help Wanted, despite being such an important character in the lore. This was kind of soft confirmed in Security Breach, when upon ripping the game files, people found that the princess's name was Cassidy, who we've always known as the spirit who controls Golden Freddy. But then, when an update for the game came out, the name Cassidy was removed from the sprites. This sent fans into a bit of a tizzy. Here we have a golden princess whose name was at one point Cassidy, but now that name has been scrubbed out of the game. Why? Well, in my opinion, I do think the princess at one point was Cassidy. It definitely seems like the princess was supposed to be Cassidy in Help Wanted, but Scott changed the story behind these arcades during Security Breach's launch. And I think that happened because he decided that the princess no longer represented Cassidy, it was someone else. And I think it's Vanessa. What I'm proposing is that when we play Princess Quest, we're helping Vanessa free herself from Afton's control, getting rid of the Vanny personality in a similar way that we set the spirits free in FNAF 3. They're there, but they need our help. This would explain why in the final level, you traverse the Halloween area of FNAF VR, the area where you find the Vanny mask, our first introduction to the character. Because the princess is Vanny, in a sense. This is actually supported in a way you might not expect. Lewis is a character introduced in FNAF AR and revisited in Security Breach. Although his position in the company changes between entries, his relationship with Vanessa does not. He has a crush on her, and wants to help her out when she begins searching odd things over the company's internet. Torture methods, how much you can saw someone in half before they die, and other disturbing searches. Although it's not confirmed, evidence through notes left behind seemed to suggest Lewis was beginning to find out what was happening with Vanessa. At the very least, he, or someone else, figured out about the Princess Quest cabinets and tried to play them. In the end, it seems like he was unsuccessful, and probably killed by Vanny, a tragic end to a character whose face we never see. Just like most of the cast. If Lewis wasn't able to do it, we at least know someone figured out that it was really important to beat all three Princess Quests, and that's probably why Vanny took the third one and had it hidden away in her hideout. You can beat the first two, sure, but it won't do you any good until you beat the third one. So there you have it, Vanessa is the princess, which is why those game files were changed. As for whether or not this ending is canon, I mean, if my first theory is right, I don't see why it can't be. Sure, Ruin would have to explain how the Pizzaplex became so rotten without a fire taking place there, but I don't know, it's possible. The biggest question I have now is who is the girl on the poster? I mean, so far as we know, Patient 46 is most likely a child and probably a girl, so it makes you wonder. The third and final theory has less to do with what we know about Security Breach and more what clues are going to be filled in later. Steel Wool is of course the developer behind the game, and right now they're hard at work developing Security Breach Ruin, the DLC. But here's the thing about Steel Wool. I highly doubt they're going to let the DLC simply be the end of the story. I find it more likely that we're going to see a continuation of what we saw the last time they made DLC. In the Curse of Dreadbear DLC for Help Wanted, we had a couple new additions added to the base game, most notably in the final level. Upon reaching the end of the level, if you ignore Glitchtrap, you can actually go out a door at the far end of the hall. Exiting would show you a large building being made in the distance. This ended up being the Pizzaplex. Also in that DLC, in the Corn Maze, collecting every key and returning to the center of the map, you were able to enter the bunker where Vanny's mask was being held. In several ways, Steel Wool was hinting at something larger coming. I think we can count on Ruin to do something similar. We know Steel Wool has an interest in making a Fredbear's game, but then I realized they've shown that a while ago. Throughout the game, there are 3 unlockables that don't match up with the others, be they the retro CDs or the golden dolls, or even the outfits you can wear, the Fredbear's posters. I think this is Steel Wool's way of communicating their next project to us. So what does that mean for Ruin? Well, call it a long shot, but I think the title is misleading. Although we're going to see the Pizzaplex in Ruins, I think it's also likely we get a glimpse of Fredbear's family diner in Ruins. There are a number of different locked rooms in the Pizzaplex that simply aren't accessible because you can never find a clearance card with a high enough authority. So maybe in a similar case to how Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place was under the Pizzaplex, maybe we have some of the remnants of Fredbear's as well. Or maybe, similar to the rooms that recreate Help Wanted's minigames, we see a replica room like that. Regardless of how it's handled, I think that the idea of Fredbear's being physically present in some capacity is incredibly likely. And along with that, and here's my biggest shot in the dark, we see the long-awaited return of Golden Freddy. After being omitted from the series from Sister Location onward, with a brief reappearance in UCN, I think it's finally time we see the vengeful spirits return. And with that, maybe we'll see just who's been behind everything that's happened in Security Breach. But that's it for now. I'll definitely revisit Security Breach sometime, but here's a couple theories I came up with while going over evidence. If you want an idea of my thought process, keep in mind that absence of evidence is not evidence in and of itself, and don't be afraid to admit when you may have gone overboard. I think this is a common trap that theorists often fall in, and it's part of why I've been taking game theory with a grain of salt as of late. I don't know, the over-reliance on the kid robot thing has kinda left a sour taste in my mouth, and I do think that there are other theories out there that could cover bases in ways that make more sense and are more pleasing for an audience. As for myself, I think I kept things generally level in this theory, but I understand some of this stuff might be a bit hard to swallow. But hey, this theory doesn't involve robot kids, until we find out 46 is a robot anyway. So that's it out of me. Please subscribe if you want to see more content like this, or other videos I make. I plan on returning to my ranking videos eventually, since people really seem to eat those up. Until then, I'm DMuted. Peace.